5 real stories. 5 near escapes. 5 moments where something felt just a little off and turned into something terrifying. From creepy neighbors and stalkers to silent threats in crowded places, these true encounters will make you question everything, including your own safety. If you've ever felt watched, followed, or uneasy for no reason, this video will show you. Your instincts might have been trying to save your life. The neighbor with the wine bottle. When I moved out on my own 2 years ago, I was excited, but also a little nervous. I'm a young woman in my early 20s, and living alone for the first time is scary in ways you don't expect. I didn't really know any of my neighbors, and that made me feel uneasy. If something bad happened to me, would anyone notice? Would anyone even check? One summer, I started seeing a man walking his dog behind my home. That area is a shared grassy space where neighbors often walk their pets. His dog was really cute. Even my cat liked playing with it through the glass door. They'd chase each other and tap paws on the glass like little friends. It was adorable. Eventually, the man's dog ran up to my porch, wagging its tail happily, and I stepped outside. That was the first time I spoke to the man. Let's call him Mark. He seemed friendly and normal, so I smoked and he often let his dog out. We ended up running into each other often. We chat for over an hour some evenings after work. It felt nice to have someone to talk to. I even gave him my number. But soon, Mark's behavior made me uncomfortable. He kept bringing up romance, or something more physical. Even though I told him many times I wasn't interested in either, he didn't listen. Instead, he constantly tried to invite me into his house, or invite himself into mine. I always said no. It got annoying fast. Then one day Mark came out with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. He said I had to try this stuff, it's delicious. But I noticed something strange. The bottle was already open even though it was full to the top. Wine bottles aren't usually filled that high, it didn't seem right. He poured us both a glass and kept asking me to drink. I felt very uncomfortable, but didn't want to insult him. I faked a sip and said it was good. He kept pushing me. Take another drink. I told him I didn't really drink and was taking it slow. But what bothered me the most, he never took a drink himself. When I asked him to take a sip too, he reached for his glass and spilled it into the grass. Oops, he said, brushing it off. This happened 3 times. Yet, he kept insisting that I drink mine. Finally, I told him it felt weird that he hadn't drunk anything and was pressuring me so much. He gave me a fake excuse, something about not drinking much and being clumsy. But then he said something that made my stomach drop. I've seen you drink with your friends, so I know you can handle it. Wait, he's been watching me. From where? He didn't even live near enough to see into my windows. That's when I realized this guy was not just a lonely neighbor. Something felt very wrong. I refused to drink. He poured himself 1 last glass, and I challenged him. Let's drink together on the count of 3. He actually took a sip this time. I pretended to do the same and poured mine into the grass. That was the last time we hung out. 2 nights later, he came out while I was smoking and started yelling at me, shouted that I wouldn't date him or sleep with him, and said horrible things about women. I tried to stay calm and reminded him that I'd been honest from the start. I was looking for anything. But then he said something that chilled me. He told me that he used to abuse his ex's dog, starve it, kick it, hurt it, and the whole time he's telling me this, he's throwing a ball for his current dog, who clearly looks scared of him. I cut him off and walked away. After that, he began texting me non-stop random letters. Hi. Hey. I know you're home. I saw your car. He even left his dog's toys on my porch, trying to get me to come outside. He stood outside in the cold, sometimes for hours, just waiting for me. That wine, I truly believe he tried to drug me. And the more I think about everything, the stalking, the watching, the pressure, the more terrified I feel. I wish I could move, but right now I can't afford to, so I'm just trying to stay smart and stay safe. If I learned anything, it's this. Trust your gut. It might save your life. And never drink something from someone if the seal is already broken. The man from the balcony. I'm from Scotland. And one weekend, my coworkers invited me to a city in England called Newcastle for a hen party. That's what we call a bachelorette party. I didn't really want to go at first. I have autism, and loud places with a lot of people can be overwhelming for me. But they said it would boost my confidence and helped me feel more included, so I decided to give it a try. That night, we visited a few pubs and clubs, and eventually ended up at a place called LL Nightclub. Everyone was dancing and laughing, having fun, but I was having a hard time. The loud music wasn't just music to me. It sounded like sharp, painful noise ringing in my ears. I sat down while the others danced, just trying to stay calm. That's when I saw him. A man was standing on the balcony above the dance floor. He looked like he had too much to drink and was swaying back and forth. Suddenly, he fell off the balcony. My heart jumped, but thankfully the bouncers caught him before he hit the floor. Still, it made me feel uneasy. I was already on edge, and this didn't help. My anxiety kept getting worse. So I told my friends I was on T feeling well and needed to go back to our hotel. They understood and told me to take a taxi. I called for a taxi and waited outside in the pouring rain for over an hour. I kept calling, but the taxi company said they were too busy. Eventually, a doorman showed me how to get to a taxi rank, a line where taxis usually stop to pick people up. It was dark, cold, and quiet as I walked alone down the street. Then, out of nowhere, he appeared again. It was the same man from the balcony, the one who had fallen. He stepped out of a shadowy alley, drunk and stumbling, with a beer bottle in hand and no shirt on. He looked rough and dangerous. Saw me and yelled, "Oi, you, got the time?" Told him the time, hoping he would leave me alone, and I kept walking. But he started following me, kept asking questions. "Where are you from?" "Hey, I'm talking to you." I told him I was Scottish, but didn't say much else. He walked faster, trying to catch up, and then he reached out to grab me when I ran. I was wearing high heels and they fell off. I ran barefoot through cold rain and puddles. I couldn't breathe. My feet hurt. Found a phone box like a glass telephone booth and ran inside to hide. I slammed the door shut just as he reached it. He tried to force the door open. I held on tightly, pushing with my hands and feet. He started screaming insults, calling me horrible names. He kicked the door again and again, screamed for help, but people just walked by, ignoring me. Then it got even worse. He pulled down his pants and rubbed himself against the glass, saying disgusting things. He tried to push his hand inside and grab me. I kicked the door shut and it crushed his fingers. Blood poured down his hand and he screamed in pain. Just then, a couple of people nearby finally noticed. They yelled at him to stop, but he pulled out a knife and waved it at them. A fight started, and while he was distracted, I ran, bleeding, shaking, and terrified. I finally reached the taxi rank. My feet were cut and bleeding from broken glass. My jacket was gone, and I don't even remember how I lost it. The taxi driver saw how bad I looked and asked if I was okay. I could barely speak. I told him what happened, and he asked if I wanted to go to the hospital or the police. I said no. I just wanted to go back to the hotel. Later, I did go to the hospital. I got stitches in my feet and some medicine to stop infection. I returned to Scotland the next day, alone, still in shock. I reported the man to the police, but never heard anything back. This night changed me. I used to believe I could handle myself, even with my autism. But that night, I truly feared for my life. If you ever feel unsafe, don't second guess it. Run, yell, hide, protect yourself. Some people won't help, but you can help yourself. The girl who changed seats one time, I was on a plane, waiting for takeoff. People were still boarding, but I noticed something odd. Many of the seats around me were still empty. Soon a large family boarded together. There were 4 adults and around 10 kids, all different ages, from toddlers to teenagers. They looked tired and stressed. The kids were loud and full of energy. Some were shy, while others ran around the seats. The adults were clearly doing their best to keep everyone together. When they finally sat down, I noticed something else. One of the kids from their group was seated far away, several rows behind. You could tell the family was upset about being separated. But the flight attendant explained that sometimes the system accidentally splits up groups, especially when it's a full flight. She promised everyone had a seat, though, sitting right in the middle of their group. Most of them were seated around me, and I figured it would be better if they were together. So I asked the flight attendant, "Can I switch seats with the person from their group who's sitting alone? I don't mind moving." Family looked surprised, probably expecting me to complain about the noise, but instead they thanked me warmly. The flight attendant took me down the aisle to the other seat. When I got there, I saw that it was a young girl, maybe 12 years old. As soon as she heard she could go back to her family, she looked so happy. She thanked me over and over and practically ran up the aisle to sit with them. But as soon as I went to take her seat, I realized something felt off. The man who had been sitting next to her looked at me with a strange, wide-eyed expression. His mouth was open like he was in shock. He said, "What's the problem?" Then, he added, "That girl was sitting here first. Red flag." The flight attendant calmly explained that I had offered to switch seats so the girl could be with her family. Bye. But the man wasn't happy about it. He started muttering, "Why did they move that girl?" He didn't even try to hide his frustration. I tried to stay calm, but everything about him felt wrong. He looked creepy. He was overweight, had thin hair combed over a bald head, big glasses, and drooled a little when he breathed. He didn't close his mouth. He just breathed heavily, staring into space. Soon, he got a phone call. I didn't mean to listen, but I couldn't help hearing. He talked about a court appearance, said something like, "No victim's testimony, and people wouldn't ask me to babysit if I was like that." Didn't make much sense, but it sounded scary. Then something even worse happened. He pulled out his laptop, put on headphones, and began watching something. At first, I couldn't see what it was, but then I noticed it was porn. He started sweating, muttering things like "little bleep" over and over. He covered his lap with a blanket and put his hands underneath. I felt sick. I pretended to press the call button for the flight attendant. As soon as I moved, he yanked his hands out and growled under his breath, "Mind your own business." Later, I got up to use the restroom. I came back. He was on the phone again, saying something about the ass on her and how I got away. He stopped talking the second he saw me walking toward the seat. Thankfully, he fell asleep after that and stayed that way for the rest of the flight, but I couldn't relax. When the flight ended and we all got off the plane, the girl's mother came up to me. She said, "Thank you again," and I just nodded. But inside I was shivering. I didn't even want to think about what that man might have done if that young girl had stayed in that seat next to him. As we left the airport, I saw that security and police were waiting at the gate. The man was being escorted away. He tried to defend himself, saying, "That's not my laptop." One small act of kindness, switching seats, may have protected a child from something terrible. Always trust your gut, and if you ever see something that feels wrong, say something. You never know who you might be saving. The man by the printers had happened just a few days ago, and I still feel shaken. Mai and I had gone to Walmart on Black Friday, hoping to grab a printer on sale and maybe a few other Christmas gifts. The store was packed with people, and the energy was chaotic, like it always is during big holiday sales. Once we walked in, we went our separate ways to pick up different items. I told him I'd meet him back near the printers. While waiting for him, I stood near the printer display and pulled out my phone to text him my location. As I stood there, I noticed a man walk by me. He stopped, turned around, and took a photo of the printer display. That wasn't strange. People do that all the time to remember prices or compare models. I stepped aside so I wouldn't be in his shot. But then, he just stood there, not moving, holding his phone like he was still filming or watching something. His behavior was weird. He didn't seem interested in printers anymore. He was just there. He turned his body and pointed his camera toward a shelf of boys' underwear, took another photo, and then quickly looked around as if to see if anyone had noticed. I did, and it creeped me out. I decided to walk away, thinking I might just be reading into things too much. But as I moved, I noticed he started walking too, following the same direction I was going, so I stopped. He stopped. I turned to face him, pretending I was unsure of where to go. He also stopped, looked confused, like he was pretending to browse. Now I was seriously uncomfortable. I called my aunt and spoke loudly. "Hey, where are you? I'm over by the printers. When will you be back?" I didn't want the guy to know I was scared, but I needed to show I wasn't alone. Then the guy picked up a printer box. Not to buy it, I'm sure, but to hold his phone steady on top of the box. With the camera pointing directly at me, his finger hovered over the volume button, which on iPhones can be used to take photos. At the same time, he turned to an older lady nearby and said, "She's just standing there. Can you believe it?" He laughed, like it was all a joke, but I knew better. I walked quickly toward the woman after he left, apologized, and told her I was afraid that man was trying to take pictures of me. She told me he had been talking about me earlier and then walked off. Now I was sure of it. I found him again and asked, straight up, "Did you take any pictures of me back there?" His mood flipped in an instant. He shouted, "What? What are you talking about?" Then he started screaming, calling me names, swearing, telling me to go away and calling me crazy. I stayed calm and said, "Okay then, show me your pictures. If you didn't take any of me, it shouldn't be a problem, right?" He refused, got louder, angrier, saying, "Go call the cops if you're so sure." Someone nearby went to get a manager. The man ran off for a few minutes, and when he returned, he yelled at my two, telling him to shut me up and threatening us. In front of store staff, he even called his girlfriend, saying he'd get her to come fight me. Security arrived and took him aside. The police were called. He searched his phone but found nothing, not even in recently deleted photos. But we all know what happened. He likely deleted everything before they got to him. Why else would someone get so angry and defensive over a simple question? Even now, more than a day later, I'm still having panic attacks. I feel like I can't breathe. My chest feels tight. Every time my baby cries, I jump. I've never felt this scared before. The scariest part, it's happened in a busy store, in public, with people all around. And it still felt like I was completely alone. Always trust your gut, speak up, and never ignore that uncomfortable feeling. You might just protect yourself from something far worse. The woman at the door just a few nights ago, I experienced something that truly shook me. I live in a quiet, upper-middle-class neighborhood in Northern California with my parents. Why, they were out of town for their anniversary, so I had the house to myself. I got home from my shift at work around 1 a.m. I was tired, but hungry. So I took a quick shower and made myself some buffalo wings. I grabbed a beer, turned on the TV, and started flipping through movies. Everything felt normal, until 2 a.m., when the doorbell rang. I jumped. I wasn't expecting anyone, and no one should be ringing a doorbell that late at night. My beer spilled a little on the couch. First I just froze and stared at the front door. Then it rang again, followed by loud, fast knocking on both the door and the nearby window. I was no longer scared, just annoyed. Who in their right mind thinks this is okay? Without thinking, I walked over, unlocked the deadbolt, and opened the front door, but kept the chain on. I didn't even look out the window first, which was a mistake. Standing there was a young woman, maybe in her 20s, with long black hair, wearing a purple hoodie and black pants. She smiled and said, "Sorry to bother you so late, but my boyfriend and I are having car trouble, and both our phones are dead. Could we use yours real quick?" She pointed up the road toward a black sedan parked under a streetlight. She seemed polite. Maybe a college student? Since I live in a college town, I figured it wasn't that strange. I asked where her boyfriend was. She said he walked to the gas station nearby to find help. I hesitated, then said, "Okay, but make it quick." I was about to go to bed. I handed her my phone. She dialed a number and held the phone to her ear. After a few seconds, she said, "Yeah, it's me, borrowing someone's phone." She just stood there after that, staring at me with a creepy smile on her face. While someone on the other end kept talking, I started to feel uneasy. She was taking way too long, and her smile didn't seem real. Finally, she said, "Okay, bye," and handed the phone back. Then she asked, "Do you think I could come inside and use your bathroom?" Immediately I said no. I told her good luck and shut the door. But just as I turned away, I heard her laugh and say something that made my heart drop. "You made the right choice." I looked through the peephole. She was still standing there, but now she wasn't alone. A man had joined her. He wore a hoodie and a face mask. They both started walking around my house, knocking on the windows, trying to open the doors, and laughing as they did it. I didn't wait. I grabbed my Glock 19, called 911, and told the operator what was happening. I stood by the back door, gun ready, while the couple continued trying to get in. They kept this up for about 5 minutes, then finally gave up and ran off, right to the black sedan parked up the street. Police arrived shortly after. One officer said something that made my blood run cold. "You're the third person to call us tonight about that couple. They had been trying to get into other houses too. I don't know what they planned, but it wasn't just using the phone or bathroom. That much I know. I learned an important lesson that night. Never open the door at 2 a.m. and never trust someone just because they look harmless. I could have been robbed, or worse, but I'm thankful I trusted my instincts, and that I was prepared to protect myself.